As the Melbourne population surges, we're discussing the merits of the Melbourne 2030 plan and its effect on residential dwellings. As the Economist, I will talk to you about the economy and its influence. Alex over here is our planner, Jack is our developer, and Phu is our community representative. So, start off from an economy point of view. As the group economist, I can tell you that Melbourne statistics are showing certain trending shifts in relation to family demographics. Families now seem to prefer to remain smaller in numbers in order to account for the higher costs of living associated with being a family. Housing affordability is one such major issue facing young families in particular. Many of these young families consist of young professionals that work in and around the inner city and as such want to live closer to work. However, dwellings close to the city are not very affordable. This is why there should be a shift towards medium density dwellings that can accommodate for these young professionals and their young families. Commercial developments such as these will also create job opportunities for the Melbourne population, which is Australia's fastest growing. National and foreign immigrants are increasingly coming to Melbourne in order to establish new lives. The stimulation to the economy that these developments will create may put upward pressure on housing affordability as more people have jobs. However, this should be more than compensated for by the increase in supply of dwellings. Melbourne's median house price rose by 1.6% to $529,000 in 2012's first quarter, while unit and flat prices dropped 2.1% to $289,000 during the same period. This higher density dwelling choice is clearly more affordable than the traditional home. Now, Alex, the town planner, is going to talk to you about some further things.
Okay, as an increase in demand for housing needs to be catered for, but also the needs to protect Victoria's environmental needs. The Melbourne 2030 plan aims to condense the city by setting boundaries where urban growth cannot occur and urbanising development centres. Urbanising areas such as Geelong, Bendigo, Ballarat and Latrobe Valley. Setting urban boundaries needs to be clearly mapped. If the city keeps expanding, then agricultural areas of Melbourne will be diminished. The Australian economy relies heavily on agricultural production, and if urbanisation continues, then we will be producing much less. The Melbourne 2030 strategic plan also aims to protect the green wedge of Victoria. Therefore, condensing the city and relocating to the regional areas will help to protect the Victorian environment. An example of a city that is overpopulated through urbanisation is LA. This city expanded outward to the point where it is non-functional. It takes too long to move from one part of the city to another. It also created great socioeconomic indifferences, with a lot of people living in poverty and others living in extreme wealth. The government has also explained an interest in improving the infrastructure already existing rather than building new. It is much more cost and time efficient to do so. In saying that though, I would have to highlight to Kai that if the strategic Melbourne 2030 plan is to work, that we would have to build regional networks and provide better transportation routes. If we were to build bullet trains that could link from the city to the regional centres such as Geelong, then people would be much more inclined to live in these places. These initiatives already exist in heavily populated cities, like Beijing for instance. It would mean that people can work in Melbourne CBD and also live in regional centres. I'm going to pass you on to Jack, the property developer.
Hi, I'm Jack, and as a property developer, I can see the great opportunities that the Melbourne 2030 strategic plan offers. By the government curbing the urban sprawl boundary, it offers developers such as myself to focus our projects on meeting the demand of Melbourne's growing population. As Kai the Economist mentioned earlier, statistics have shown that our population is growing and that the amount of single young professionals will increase, leading to the more demand for unit and apartment living. In my profession, I'm trying to meet the needs of what people want, using our already established activity centres such as Camberwell, Hawthorn and South Yarra, We can seize the opportunity of the already developed train and tram lines and rebuild medium-rise development to cater for a larger number of people. As Alex, the planner, mentioned earlier, the cost of establishing infrastructure in our outer suburban zones is too expensive, and it is much cheaper to use existing services such as train stations and major arterial roads. Yes, property development is renewing our past, but our motives are not to destroy the historical significance of buildings. Developers such as myself aim to work cohesively with the community and its existing buildings and infrastructure. As our knowledge of climate change improves, redevelopment enables smarter technology to be used, therefore meeting the demands of a cleaner, greener society. I believe that Melbourne 2030 is a great way that we can develop our city in a sensible and sustainable manner. I will now talk to the community representative, Phu.
Hi, I'll be the community representative today, and my issues will be touching on, firstly, public transport. There needs to be a better network. This allows for less congestion, lowers car dependency, which is currently too high. With ever increasing oil prices, it will be beneficial to be more dependent on public transport. It also combats climate change and promotes a sustainable future. Along with public transport, more roads need to be built. As gentrification will occur, more families will move into the outer suburbs, such as Sunbury, so there needs to be connecting roads, proper freeways and highways. These are called regional networks, and it's beneficial to have more joining roads between neighbourhoods. Maintenance on existing roads need to be adhered to, or some even need to be widened. The next issue is safety. As a community, safety is paramount to the community. One strategy is called the Safer Streets and Homes, where the community and government form together to help people feel confident about their safety. This is important as many will be adhering to less car dependency, meaning more people will be walking home and riding home from work, so more security and safety is needed getting to and from public train stations. It is important also to guard hotspots, which are known as danger areas, to Victorian Police, more Metropolitan Fire, Victorian Police, country authorities and ambulance will be implemented. The next issue will be schools. There needs to be more schools, both private and public. This allows for both socioeconomic classes to afford an education. University and TAFEs also need to be built to allow for qualifications of certain professions and tradesmen. The main issue here with community, as a community representative, I want to preserve heritage. So it is important to protect and cultural identity, neighbourhood, character and sense of place. This makes a place or region unique, feeling of belonging. This should not be affected by development. Development should respect the underlying natural landscape or try to recreate it. Most of the city is of Victorian era build and is one of the most heritage influenced cities. We should lobby for them to have saved and carefully consider before rebuilding and developing new developments. Understanding the past is important in planning and designing for the future. Heritage contributes to a sense of place, community and identity. Affordable housing is yet another issue, as Kai would have mentioned before. And it needs to be addressed as with an ever-growing population, and it should be done by monitoring supply and demand in affordable housing, local and regional levels. This can be combated, as said before, by increasing supply of affordable housing and implementing public housing. An increased supply of high-density housing should release stress on house prices and increase affordability, as stated by Kai, the Economist before. But in conclusion, yes, there needs to be a plan implemented for the future, but at the same time, we need to consider our past trends, our community and heritage. Thank you for listening.